Hi guys, it's Jacob from Stringbuzz here, stringbuzzworld.org being the music journalism site, links are in the description down below. And we have a brand new song review for you today, and it's the latest track by Kendrick Lamar, and that's The Heart Part 4. So I'm going to refer to the original article as I usually do for these videos, so I hope you enjoy. So it's always hype central whenever Kendrick releases a new track, regardless of who you follow or who you don't, or whether you like him or whether you don't. Whether people like it or not though, he's definitely one, if not the biggest rapper of the new generation coming through, and that means both high expectations of his music as well as an incredibly difficult form to keep up from track to track. So the first time I heard the guy was one of his features on How Many Drinks, I think it was, by Miguel, and it's crazy to see how far he's come since then. He's definitely grown as a rapper, and he grows with each new outing. So should we see what I thought of this brand new track? Well, it's pretty darn good, and I'm almost lost for words really on what to really criticize here. We got 5, maybe even 6 major transitions into new parts with completely different dynamics, progressions, and even instrumentals. Somehow each transition flowed ever so smoothly as well, and the track remained conjunct despite being so sporadic, 2 words which really don't go together. Sure, he isn't a speedy superstar or someone with immense dramatization, but he's built his own style, and it sits outside of those categories really well, as you already know. You can read his lyrics without context and instantly you'd know it's a Kendrick track, and Kendrick, as you can imagine, just sounds so good on this track, and his constant flow and syllabic movement never ceases to amaze me. Although some sections are better than others in my personal opinion, the amount of respect I have for the guy pushing this many differing segments together into one small track, to be honest. I know it's around sort of 6 minutes, I think 5-6 minutes, but you know, having 6 or 7 major transitions, as I've already mentioned, that's almost a huge transition into a part with completely different instrumentals and progressions every minute or so, and it was still all conjunct and sustainable. It's just impossible stuff which he pulled off pretty darn professionally. Production wise, I like the timbres and tones used in both the synth as well as the percussion here. It's very difficult to mix 2 differing types of percussion into one song, and yet we had 3 or 4 differing types here, and yet nothing ever felt disjointed or lesser than its predecessor. The low ground, whenever it was being used, always had a big bassy kick drum driving the pulse. I will say that the bass lines were a little bit okay in some parts and perhaps didn't have the best tone, but you know how it is, sometimes you can't take to everything. I will say that the kick drum in some sections as well could have done with a little more edge to it, but that's really just nitpicking because I like some more tonality in my low ground. The mid ground, however, was a little empty for me, and if you exclude the vocals, it was often silent, which worked really well in some parts to add, again, different dynamics, but it would have been nicer for the entire track to explore and bloom together rather than the mid-ground sort of kept silent throughout the majority of the track. The vocal track in particular though is very clean and very precise, with each note and syllable ringing out really well despite the speed that they were shot out. All in all, it's a pretty solid production cycle that I had great fun with. When it comes to the musicality of this track, I thought there were some sections that were really set on fire by Kendrick himself, and some of the best phrasing in the instrumentation we've had in a Kendrick track to date. The manipulated, sampled vocal section working in unison with that bassy Rhodes-like keyboard sounded gorgeous to introduce us right at that start of the track, in the opening of the track, and it almost reminded me of some of the latest material produced by Daft Punk even, which just begs the question, like, how nice would it sound if Daft Punk and Kendrick Lamar were on the same track? Whew, that would be a tasty collaboration. Kendrick is the driving force of this track though, and the one that you sort of constantly relate to throughout the song. I liked how he used himself, his vocal track, as the stability for the track and the instrumentation as the development. Is usually the other way round. The melodies were great throughout this song, and the progressions were often atypical and very memorable. The dynamics are varied and interesting, and I just feel it's a very well thought out track. Quickly, the song has some strong parts to it and some that are a little too cliche for me, but for the most part I actually really enjoyed it. The problem with political rapping right now is that there's so much of it. We have so many different perspectives and so many similar perspectives as well. It can get quite exhausting to listen to the same thing sort of expressed multiple times in the same week. I'm glad that the political side of things was kept fairly minimal throughout this track though, with just the odd reference here and there, but regardless I enjoyed the themes that were expressed by Kendrick on this track. So all in all, a very solid track, and I guess you could say I enjoyed it a fair bit. So I gave a G rating of 8 out of 10, which is well above average. So if you like this video, then please leave a like, subscribe to see more, and I'll see you around next time. Bye bye.